Alright guys, welcome to another educational video. As you are aware, my name is Zianni, Challenger Mid Laner. Today we're going to be doing some low elo gameplay. We're going to be playing Orianna versus Azir, which is a scaling versus scaling matchup. First thing we really need to do is look at the mid lane matchup, which is going to have Ignite versus TP, D-Ring versus D-Ring, Comet versus Phase Rush, which means that Azir does have a slight damage advantage from his Keystone. Level 1 is really the only time we can actively do something where we too have a range advantage, so I'm going to go and try and take advantage of that by looking for Qs when they go up to last hit. Other than that, we just kind of want to stop them from hitting level 2 before us so that we can actually control the Conquering Sands. But the next thing we look at is jungle matchup, which is Wukong versus the Fiddlesticks. Fiddle is a champion that basically permafarms until 6. It's another part of the reason why we actually went magic resist this game, just for the extra protection, but also against Azir. And we just don't want to get all in by Fiddle every time he's up at 6, so we can kind of assume that he'll do nothing for the first couple levels because he's going to be full clearing. So we do have a pretty strong advantage jungle-wise since Wukong can actually do stuff early game. But you can see here that he can reposition Q at any point he wants, threaten me with damage. I'm just trying to create as much space as I can between the two of us by playing diagonally. This just creates more space between each minion as opposed to being directly in front of each other. It just makes it a little bit more controllable in a way. But in this particular matchup, it is fine if we do nothing. Like, we do want to play around our range advantage, but if we ever see this person use WQ like that, we can go ahead and play aggressively because there's no way that they can contest after using 2 cooldowns right in front of us. And that's kind of how you create a slight lead in this particular matchup. I would say usually you wouldn't really be able to do this in a Azir matchup as consistently, but since we're in lower elos, there's a lot more mistakes that you can capitalize on. That's kind of like the main difference between watching high elo and low elo gameplay is that there's a lot more relatable context in lower ranked games than there would be in higher ranked games. Because if this were a higher ranked game, I wouldn't have as much ability to like play the game at all as opposed to in this lower range. So, unfortunately, we waste the Wukong flash, but you see here I'm able to easily rotate up because I'm paying attention to where my jungler is. Even though Azir technically had priority with a bigger wave, he just kind of let me walk through. And that's an you can take advantage of that in a lot of games, is that people will not be looking at their screens. It's a big thing you can take advantage of in lower elo games. And that's kind of like the bigger thing. I did it on Ranked to Masters challenge recently, still doing it actually on my stream daily with chat, duo queue chat only. But you have to play proactively, you have to constantly be creating situations where you can succeed. And in the game where I did not get ahead in my lane, the game was significantly harder. So playing for yourself or like actively creating situations where you can succeed is such a huge part of playing solo queue. Because if you're not playing to win, then you're just playing not to lose. And there's a very big difference in the playstyle. But we have a really huge HP advantage here. We also get consistent healing from red buff due to the passive effect on that being out of combat. But we're going to try and threaten a kill under tower here. If we kill Azir, he pretty much loses this entire wave. And the only reason why he feels compelled to stay here is because he has no TP. So him taking Ignite aggressively and then losing is a huge downgrade for him. And now that he's given up the wave, I'm just going to go and recall and spend all my money. Fiddle does catch the wave, but 13 CS lead, I have a massive gold lead. I'm going to come back with a pretty major item spike. I do have enough for pretty much everything that I need. And I'm going to go in debt just to buy the Dark Seal. I was thinking about doing a tier and Lost Chapter, but it's just a little too much mana.
Oh my god, he's a simp.
I've already got enough mana of tier, so skipping the Sapphire Crystal gives me access to another 15 AP. I do lose 10 ability haste, but it's not really a big deal. And we have a general idea of where Fiddlesticks is because we saw him moving on Raptors. And not a great engage from him. You have to remember that we still have red buff ticking, so we just get a bunch of free damage out of that. And in this particular matchup, if you are struggling against Azir or something of similar long range, it is very valuable to purchase a refillable potion. So instead of the Dark Seal, I could have opted to do something a little bit differently. But until this person hits level 6, we kind of want to play an aggressive position to force positive trades. And at this point, we are actually just going to go ahead and all-in if possible. We are getting 100 to Ode here. So fortunately, we flash at a perfect time. And with the benefit of the fear, it pushes me away from Fiddlesticks. It was a really sloppy play at the beginning, and I think... Oh, that's a Nami. To be fair, I did not think I was going to get ganked by Nami. But really good rotate from the enemy team. And this is huge for them because I'm actually losing an entire wave here. This is probably a little bit too much of an ego situation where I kind of played into it by giving them the chance to kill me there. Like, I was already 30% HP and I tried to outplay the Fiddlesticks. I don't think it's inherently wrong to limit test when it's doable, but there is a difference between limit testing and just inting. So if you know a decision has gotten nothing but negatives and you do it anyways, that is inting. So there's no real reason to min-max there, so as a result of that, I do get a little bit behind. And I should make sure not to do that as much. That's another thing about improving in lower elos, is just understanding what you did wrong and how you can improve on it. You do have to actually self-reflect on what you're doing and what you could be doing better. Just playing the game doesn't naturally lead to results or progress. Now, if you do play a lot of League of Legends, of course you will see minor improvements. You will get better at your champion, at execution. But it's only when you're focused on making improvements and you actually understand what you're doing or trying to accomplish that you see a massive increase in your own gameplay. But right now, we are letting the wave push towards us. The reason why I'm doing this is because I do not have flash. I am playing against the Fiddlesticks, and I don't really have that much vision. So by letting him push towards me, I'm creating a situation where I'm closer to my tower. Makes it a little bit harder for Azir to walk up, and it's just more protection. It's safer. Now, I could technically get ulted from the Raptor wall, and that's something that happens often in higher elos, but typically lower-end players won't take advantage of like the maximum potential of their champions, so you can kind of get away with a little bit greedier positioning in that context. We're going to go in full combo here. Surprised Azir did not lead with the ultimate there, but we're just going to continue running and see if we can just get gap here. Unfortunately, just a little bit too much space for the ball to travel. Projectile speed is just not big enough. I do need to stay away from these walls right now because I am 100% positive that Fiddle's in the area. He does have ultimate, so instead of giving him the chance to kill me for free, I'm just going to go ahead and take this recall. I'm not even looking at my screen. I'm too busy narrating. Fortunately, we're fine. He should have just immediately ulted right there. Surprised that didn't happen. I'm surprised my Wukong is not repositioning, but I also did not ping him at all, so... So this is an ant right here. I'm walking back into a Fiddlesticks. But we should definitely push this wave. If Wukong helps me push this, I can immediately reset. Because eventually this will push back to 0 anyways, so I'm just going to go and fix my lane. It would have been good for Wukong, because splitting XP is really good for jungles in situations like this, because I get the tempo reset. Wukong gets a major XP advantage against Fiddlesticks. Just a lot of benefits for pretty much nothing. Alright, so we go ahead and reset here. We could stay for plate. I just want to make sure I get out as fast as possible. Because Azir's on their way back, and I just want to make sure that I'm matching that presence on the map. I'm going to go and buy a pink ward here as well. Fortunately not level 9, so we're unable to purchase a Farsar trinket, but... This is kind of like, when you do resets like this, you have to understand that Azir now has the ability to push this next wave in and initiate a rotate. So if I make really bad recalls and they get free pushes in and then they walk to another lane and get a kill, it's purely because I'm off the map and I'm allowing them to do that. So by making sure that you're always in lane when it's necessary, you can kind of consistently apply pressure on a global scale. And that's kind of like usually where I make mistakes in higher end games, is that when I go for a reset, my team does not respect it, and then they die. But right now, I'm going to go and put all my vision on one side of the map. This not only protects my bot side, but it also protects me and allows me to play very aggressively on this side of the lane. Because if I put one ward on each side, I'm not protected from all angles, and it's kind of mediocre in a way. Now keep in mind, without flash, if Azir does initiate a Shurima shuffle onto me, I will 100% die if there's a follow-up. It just takes one mistake for him to send me flying into his jungler, and I'm going to use this one minion to hold the wave on my side slightly. But this is a valid play. So the reason why we want our bot lane to go mid after taking this tower successfully is because they can start sieging another tower. It's just a lot more value. So not only do they get to siege plates, they get to siege at mid tower. This gives us more pressure on the map. But it also means that they can contest central objectives like Dragon, central objectives like Rift Herald. So it's more valuable for your bot lane to be mid after taking that initial tower. It does mean we're forced into side lane, and that's typically where champions like Orianna or Syndril struggle if they have bad matchups. And that's where a lot of lower end players struggle as well, is that when you get to the stage of the game, you kind of feel like you have to ARAM. You always have to be with your teammates because they're always going to fight. But when you're playing a scaling champion and you have a winning side lane matchup, and you're in a 1 versus 1 situation, you can continue to just ramp up in side lanes while getting infinite pressure like this. Now, sometimes, and this is kind of pretty much like 80% of the time, most of the jungle champs in the game currently are Omega busted, and it makes side laning really, really difficult because you don't have a way to play against their vision. I'm gonna actually have to flash this wall at this point. I might be able to actually catch the fiddle here, but Kai'Sa's in the area. So instead, I'm going to opt to recall here. The reason why this is a better decision is because I have a lot of money in my inventory, I have TP, and I want to spend this money so that I am stronger on the map. Because if I have both of these items right here, I just one-shot Nami, and I could easily rotate back into that play. Dragon's not for another minute, so there's no reason to TP here. It's better to save it for objectives at this point, or like connecting with my team. That's why TP is really valuable in scaling mages, is you can neutralize any losing matchup by just running back to lane with TP, or you can use it to get to other parts of the map while split pushing. Yeah, perma ARAM is really annoying, chat. Unless you're playing a champion that succeeds in those kinds of situations, like Vex, then it's very nice to just force group. Because if you do have a lead or an advantage and you continue to force plays from that advantage, it does make it a significantly easier time snowballing. I forgot to swap to... Actually, no, we're fine. But I don't think my bot lane should be here with me anymore. Looks like Zeref is just clinging to me. But we can kind of just assume that this is warded. Wow. She's got brown boots and she outruns my Q projectile speed. I hate it. She pretty much dies there instantly if it connects, but... Right now, we've got 2 wards. We have no vision of Fiddle, so it's really hard for me to walk up and feel comfortable here. The Luden's W proc hits hard. But I am kind of hugging the bot side at this point just to make more distance between me and this wall. If we E him, he pretty much dies here, so... Alright, not bad. We definitely win this just because we've burned all their CC up front. I'm just trying to get as close as possible so there's less travel time for my spells. Because if I play at max range and auto at max range and he gets gap on me, it's really hard for me to connect, so I just stay as close as possible there. At this point, taking tier 2 tower is more valuable. We get 600 gold in the bank. We can reset and initiate another play in the other part of the map. We're kind of overstaying at this point because every one of us has a ton of money, so just leaving here is the best thing we can do. This is greedy because you're giving them an opportunity to get back in the game by killing you when you're in... It's like, it doesn't matter if you're 2,000 gold up, if you have 2,000 gold in your inventory. That doesn't reflect stats at this point. So if they wait there, get killed, and they give over shutdowns, that's like 900 gold going back for absolutely zero reason. But at this point, the next objective would be Riftchild, it would be Mountain Drake, it would be tier 2 tower topside, tier 2 tower mid. So these are a bunch of ways where we can force fights that are in our favor because we have an item advantage currently and we have a stat advantage. So looking to fight around those areas just gives us more control because we're now creating a situation where we either get an objective and we're progressing the game state. Because a lot of times when you ARAM for nothing there, like there's no tower there, you're not getting anything done if a fight doesn't happen. So creating a situation where it's a win-win is very vital to just like controlling the flow and the pace of the game. And it feels bad to be here right now because we have Zeref bot side with no vision on the map. We're 2 players walking up. It's a 4 versus 2 right now. We have 2 people on base. So just waiting for them to get onto the map and actually apply pressure is one of the easiest ways to stay consistent here. I'm going to go grab blue buff here, and we could technically wait for these objectives. It is one of the easiest ways to close out the game, but grouping from this stage of the game when we're up, I would presume about 5,000 gold is an easy way to end the game. And like we do have TP, we could play for 4-1, putting 4 people in one lane, one in the other. One of the major issues with ARAMing is that you're not farming all the available lanes on the map, but sometimes that's fine if you can just go ahead and initiate a play. Looks like they're actually able to walk away from that, so it's a bit of a waste of an ult. I do like the fact that Ori has like a really low ult cooldown. But as you can see, I would have just killed Kais right there if I held it. I don't mind flipping it right there, because I think getting the fiddle kill is like huge for our siege potential. Because the only way we actually die here is if we get hit by an over-the-wall fiddle ult. But we have information on where he is. And as you can see, Shurima Shuffle is just a really, really strong engage tool. I get a little bit cocky over position, and I just get immediately taken out without my flash. So really good Shurima Shuffle from Azir. Unfortunately, their team is just a little bit too far behind for them to like capitalize on this right now. Because if they had Fiddlesticks ult on that engage, it would have just been absolutely nutty. But now that we've taken a inhibitor tower and inhibitor successfully, this is what really opens up the game. Because this creates constant pressure on the map by having inhibitor siege minions go through. But this is where most players will actually throw the game as well. It's like, once you've taken this first inhibitor, what do? Because at this point, we have Rift Herald in 10 seconds, we have Dragon in 2 minutes. Instead of overstaying right now and being forced to ace them to end the game, we could just recall. We can go to any other lane on the map and we can take another inhibitor tower and another inhibitor and continue to create pressure. But every single time that your team defaults to going back mid after taking an inhibitor, you're creating a situation where you have to get a team fight if you want to close the game out. So you're not progressing the game state in any other ways. You're coin flipping every single time that you go. Now, sometimes you may have a big enough gold lead where you can just force it down mid lane, but your teammates aren't good enough to do that because they would be higher elo if that was the case. So whenever you're in a situation where you've taken that inhibitor and your team keeps going to that downed inhibitor lane for no reason, I just want you to ask yourself, are we accomplishing anything by going here? And the answer is always going to be no. You could go any other lane, you can get any other amount of pressure on the map. Just by going to a side lane, we get another tier 2 tower, which is 600 gold. We can walk away and do Rift Herald here. But once we get the second inhibitor, the game becomes so simple because you have so much pressure that you can go to the remaining lane, and if you just sit there, they have to send players to deal with these inhibitor lanes. So instead of playing the game on hard mode, I just want you guys to remember that you can play it intelligently and you can go for like guaranteed objectives that are win-wins. You don't always have to play the game on coin flip mode. But right now, even after Shadow Flame, I'm going to go ahead and buy this because it's a huge item spike, and then I will probably teleport for this dragon. Now, getting to objectives early is one of the easiest ways to ensure that you have control. Because once you set up vision, it's up to the enemy team to retake control because they have to go through your vision. So getting there 40 seconds before, 30 seconds before, and putting down wards and protecting those ramps or entrances is a really good way to just ensure that you get a positive team fight. But we're rotating here. Caitlyn's on the other side of the map right now for some reason, so if they did fight, it would be a 4 versus 5. Oof. But this isn't really a bad decision, right? Because we're going to get this dragon no matter what at this point with a death timer. And we can start sieging bot side inhibitor. Now, of course, splitting 2 lanes does mean they have the ability to overload. Overload is essentially when you're giving people a chance to fight. Sorry, hold on, I need to focus. Overloading is when you take advantage of a numbers advantage, so they could send 5 players to deal with 2, and because they're overloading us numbers-wise, they can get a favorable trade or favorable, like, play. So every single time that we fight with a numbers disadvantage, we're giving them a chance to get back in the game, per se. Now, fortunately, looks like Zeref is soloing Dragon. The game is a little chaotic right now because we're all over the place with the way we're executing. But with this inhibitor top going down, the game is becoming increasingly simple because there's only so many places you can go from this point now. Looks like he's kind of given up on the game, which is understandable given the state of the game, but I can't solo Dragon, I know, man, I'm sorry. Alright, so yeah, we could pretty much reset here. We can do anything on the map. Like, with this entire base being open, they can't leave base, which means we can take any of these neutral objectives first. And in this context, just going Baron and then running it through their base is the easiest way to close the game out from this point onwards. Because they can't contest this. If they walk to Baron, they lose their base to minions. And if they don't go to Baron, then they lose the base afterwards when we walk in with Baron buff. There's just too many minions for them to really deal with at that point. Can I still build Darksteel if I'm a bad player? You should always build Darksteel. Darksteel is the best item in the game for AP mages and just AP champions in general. has one of the highest gold values, highest efficiency values. And it just rewards you for playing well. And it makes you play better because you were worried about losing stacks and all that. Looks like this guy's actually just given up. Okay, so we do have a death timer. 4v5 is definitely doable. 4v5, you'd say like you have an 80% chance of winning the game right now, but if we do Baron first, it's like a 100% chance of victory. So if my team continues to walk away from the Baron here, we're just prolonging the game unnecessarily. But yeah, we could go for mid with the death timers and we could end, but once again, it's always going to be a coin flip, right? Because you're relying on people dying to you to end the game. But once you get this Baron, you have full control because you are in the driver's seat. You're not just relying on any team making a mistake. You have the ability to close the game out, and it costs us pretty much nothing, just 30 seconds. And now with 3 death timers, the game is basically unlosable. I'm gonna go and do a cool flashy ult play. It was completely unnecessary, but it does look good, right? Anyways, thanks for watching today's video. I know I haven't done any Orianna content in recent times, and I apologize for the delay, but I hope this was helpful. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like content like this. Just a reminder that this was a normal game in low elo. I'm not abusing noobs or anything like that, but take care.